Hello and welcome to the 1992 series of Grandstand. Over the next few weeks, each Saturday we'll be bringing you a great variety of sports, with the highlights being marathon running, the Paralympics from Barcelona, equestrian, motocross, weightlifting, and today from the Ed Fleming lanes in Melbourne, the 1992 Australian Ten Pin Cup World Series. $25,000 for the winner, the richest first prize in Australian 10-pin bowling history. With me in commentary is Steve Jones. Steve, 60 bowlers from 6 countries began that quest for the first prize. What's the standard been like so far?
Peter, the standard's been very high. The 60 bowlers started on Friday. We've cut to 24 last night. Those 24 bowlers have indeed, over that period of time until now, up to this grand final stage, bowled 23 further match games, and the scoring has been sensational, including a perfect 300 game, a rarity in national tournaments in Australia, and certainly the first at Ed Fleming lanes.
That's the equivalent, I guess, of the 147 break in snooker, so a rare sight. Who produced it?
Peter Knopp, the tournament leader at this stage from Germany. Peter is a part-time professional on the US tour, and certainly a man who has 7 perfect scores to his credit, and 1 here today.
Well, it'll be lovely to see one on television. How did we get down to this final 5-step ladder phase?
Peter, as you suggested, 60 bowlers commenced the tournament. We cut to the 24. We're now down to those 5 bowlers. In our first match, we have an All-Australian final. Ian Bradford from Victoria will be competing against a young man just coming through on the national scene, Robert Thompson from New South Wales. In the next match, we have the winner of that match, indeed, will progress to play Germany's Achim Grabowski in a 1-game playoff. The winner of that match will play Patrick Eriksson from Sweden, and the winner of that game will go through to compete against Peter Knopp of Germany. If Knopp is beaten, he has the right to re-challenge, as he is the leader of the tournament, so we could indeed have 5 games, not 4, but let's wait and see.
Okay, first up, it's an all-Australian affair. It's the big improver during the match play, Ian Bradford against Robert Thompson from New South Wales. Ian Bradford will be the hometown favourite, the 32-year-old from Melbourne, one of the best bowlers Australia has produced. He really stepped it up in the match play, averaging 212 after he was in 18th position after the qualifying, an average of 195. He's had 6 perfect 300 games. Robert Thompson, the youngest player in the final 5. He's 21 years of age from Newcastle. He's only been bowling for 5 years, and he's bowled 1 perfect 300 game in his career. Ian Bradford starts off this stepladder competition. Can he continue the climb up the rankings? He's begun well with a strike.
Peter, Ian Bradford, of course, is one of the greatest bowlers in the country. He would be certainly one of the best players we've had in 30 years, and this man's just starting his career, and what a way to do it.
Well, it could be the match of the final 5, this one. They'll know each other's games pretty well.
Peter, certainly they do. Bradford's been around for many years, 18 years he's been bowling. He has 6 perfect 300 games to his credit, and in 1988 was regarded as the 2nd best bowler in the world when he ran 2nd in the World Cup that year in Mexico. Picture of concentration, Bradford.
So consecutive strikes for Bradford. And the youngster continue this high-class opening.
He's pulled that. What happens, Peter, sometimes is with the level of talent in this country, we see a lot of bowlers bowling in television tournaments. This is Robert's first appearance on television anywhere. He was a spectacular player in Guam in 1991 with the Australian youth team that dominated that event. He won a gold medal and a silver medal. A terrific player, but I'm sure the television lights will make him a little nervous early, but an easy spare.
So he has a pin count of 20. Bradford, possible first frame score of 30 if he can follow up with another strike. Of course, those of you that aren't familiar with the scoring system, strike, and then the next 2 frames added on to give the first frame score for Bradford. And he can really put the pressure on with another strike here, just a little bit high, leaving the 10 and 6 pin. Should be a fairly easy spare for a player of his class.
No doubt. Thompson now seeing a chance to get moving on this in his 3rd frame. Strike and a spare. See what he can do here on the odd lane. Solid 10 pin, very unlucky. I think Robert thought that he had a full count, but it wasn't to be. Bradford now up for his spare cross lane to convert the easy 6-10, which he's done. Equally, Robert Thompson should find no trouble with this spare, a 10-pin conversion for him. And he's missed it. The pressure, Peter, the first time on television, the bit of nerves under the lights, and of course $25,000 up there, the biggest check in Australia. Currently the score, of course, Bradford leads by 20 with that open in the third to Robert Thompson. Bradford has a spare in the third with this bonus. 10 pin.
The adrenaline no doubt really flowing when they began, and they capitalised on it, but the task now well and truly at hand for Robert Thompson. And again, the 10 pin doesn't want to go down.
Yes, Robert's struggling here a little bit. I'm sure he has very little time, of course, to settle down. 10-minute game of about 10 frames. And an easy spare for Ian Bradford.
No wrist guard for Robert Thompson. He too, no problem with the spare, getting some encouragement from the crowd.
He's made that.
Bradford, by contrast, quite a substantial guard. I guess that's a legacy of having bowled for some 13 years more than his young competitor.
Sure, and Peter, also Ian almost finished his career 2 years ago with a tendon injury in that arm, and has come back very well since he's had it fixed. And why not?
Just enough pin action to take out that 7.
Looks good for Thompson, and a great shot. Still fighting, the young man. A perfect 10 count. A little slow on the 8 pin, but indeed 10 was the total, all into the pit. 19 pins the difference now. Both bowlers with strikes in the 5th frame. Can Bradford make this a double?
Oh, that's going to take some work to get his spare there.
The big 4 is so close to impossible. It's been converted, of course, but it's so close to impossible.
Chink of daylight. Thompson up to make it consecutive strikes. Looking good. He's back into it.
Sure is. Ian Bradford converted this spare in qualifying on Friday. Let's see if he can do it again. He certainly needs to. It wasn't. In 3 frames, Peter, the game has swung around. In the 6th frame of this first match, Ian Bradford is 113 with an open in that frame. Thompson, of course, with 2 strikes in the 5th and 6th, and he leads by 14 pins. Very disappointing for Robert. He thought he had it, the ball was just a little high, and therefore leaving that 4 pin. An easy conversion, but he certainly wanted to capitalise on that double with 3 consecutive strikes. Bradford now needs to work hard.
It's good.
That's great.
Starting it way out near the gutter, which makes us amateur bowlers quake in trepidation. These guys, they get so much work on it. The pin action helped him, and there's another open from Thompson. 2nd in the match. He wouldn't have done that probably, well, certainly today.
Peter, what the game gets down to is that, what do they say in golf? You drive for show and you putt for dough. In bowling, it's a bit like that. You strike for show, and spares are your bread and butter. That's the difference between winning and losing. And a wry smile from Bradford I detected there. I think he can see that that's let the door open and return the match to a degree in his favour.
And a bowler of his experience he takes those opportunities.
Well, he sure does, and in 2 frames he's turned the match around to now lead by 18 pins. Thompson now desperate.
Bit high again, leaves the 6-pin. Well, we were saying just how sudden death it really is at this later stage. You know, 10 minutes and you're out.
Exactly.
And it's changed the complexion of the match 3 times, really.
That's right. And Thompson knows it, and that would have a lot to do with the reason he pulled the ball across himself, and that's why the ball went left of the headpin to leave the comparatively easy 6-pin spare for him, but that's not what he needs now. He needs strikes.
2 frames to go.
Bradford wiping the excess oil off his ball. The lanes here at Ed Fleming Lanes are a lot wetter than we are used to in this country. We put more oil down, which is to set to an international condition, and the fact of the matter is that the bowlers have struggled a little, but certainly the cream has risen to the top. Bradford's one of those. This looks great. And is.
Well, the noose tightening on Robert Thompson. He's got to answer with a strike now. Yes.
Score currently 145 in the 8th. In 145 in the 8th frame.
Bradford, 3 consecutive strikes. Very deliberate in his setup. Gets the feet in the right position on the marker dots. And he's visualising a strike, and he's got it. No, leaves the 7.
With that, he was on target for a 220 game before that shot. Now has a possible 212. Thompson needs to strike out for a 205, but Bradford must spare. He's done all he can do. He's struck. He has a strike in the 9th and 10th frames. Bradford effectively needs to spare this to close out Thompson and go to the next match. And he's missed. 200 game to Bradford. Thompson needs a strike to win.
Well, it couldn't be any more tantalisingly set up than this. What?
Anything but a strike. Anything but a strike here, Peter. And Ian Bradford goes to the next match. If Thompson strikes here, he goes to the next match and Bradford finishes 5th. This young man must strike to go forward.
Hurry, ball, come on! Oh, the pin action saved him.
Count.
And he goes up the step ladder at the expense of Ian Bradford.
This is an unbelievable strike with the pins falling. It's a good release. It stays out on the lane a little longer. He nearly leaves the bucket and then they all fall. You couldn't believe it. And do you think he was happy? He has to get 6 here, at least 6 pins. And
well, what a way to finish off with the perfect strike after it. Well, the imperfect one won it for him, but he's not complaining. And Ian Bradford, after an incredible move up the rankings, departs from the Ed Fleming Lanes, beaten by 5 pins. Robert Thompson 205, Ian Bradford 200 in a game that, well, was of high quality, then of very poor quality, but a real nail-biter. And the 21-year-old lives to fight on. So Thompson's opponent is Akam Grabowski from Germany, 26 years of age, a man they're calling Mr. 299 here at the Ed Fleming Lanes this weekend because he was 1 pin off the perfect score in qualifying. One of the strong German contingent here for this Australian Ten Pin Cup. Robert Thompson, who must be thinking someone is on his side. And he's really got nothing to lose from here on in. Starts this match against Grabowski with a strike, and again that pin action, bringing down the pins to get the perfect start for him.
Well, I'm sure Peter Roberts really pumped at this stage. I mean, to win that, to snatch that match in the 10th frame will do his confidence no harm at all, but he certainly has a game on his hands against Akam Grabowski. along with the 299 game that Grabowski had here earlier this week, he has 3 perfect 300 games to his credit. Currently is averaging 209 in Europe, particularly in the Super League in Germany. Has a high 3-game series of 798.
He might be just in the groove now, though, Thompson.
Well, that was a spectacular shot. I mean, he hit that ball at the line very, very powerfully, as we can see. And the result was that all 10 pins went into the pit very convincingly. The 5-pin washing across to the left, not leaving a pin standing.
Oh, an impressive opening to this game. He's a very animated chap, as we've seen earlier on in the tournament, Grabowski. What's his feelings show?
Well, with both bowlers starting with a double, the perfect score was gone. The marine power boat has left us, but I'm sure with both of these bowlers would love to produce the perfect game.
Well, the turkey, as it's known, is gobbling here at Ed Fleming Lanes.
Absolutely. 3 strikes to open for Robert Thompson. And Grabowski needs one here to stay with him.
Ten-pin stays.
And it looked like a good shot. It looked like he threw the ball well, and I'm sure he was fairly confident. But Ed Fleming Lanes has certainly been tough this week, but fair.
A different bowling ball here for the spare. Explain that.
Change balls to a hard case ball so it doesn't hook or react. Thompson now with a lot of crowd support, Peter. He is now 11 pins ahead. He's 49 in the second frame. Sorry, Grabowski 49 in the second. Thompson 30 in the first. And if Thompson strikes here, he takes the lead by 21 pins. And he does.
Well, 9 more strikes, the 300. That's, I think, the furthest thing from his thoughts at the moment.
I think the $25,000 first place check's what's on his mind, Peter, but the 300 will do to start. Grabowski needs to strike to stay with him. And again, he's changing over to that hard case ball. Peter, the lanes at Ed Fleming Lanes have been oiled 30 feet. Lanes are 60 foot long, and the oil this week has gone a good deal longer down the lane. And an easy spare for Grabowski.
And when you see the ball leave the hand, it slides for, well, just about all that 30 feet.
Sure, and the bowlers change balls to ensure that they get a straight ball reaction, although with oil they'll get that anyway. But they change balls to be sure of easy spares, single pins, 2 or 3 pins left. They change to that hard case ball to ensure the ball doesn't deflect across the lane. Can he make it 5? He sure can.
Well, he's really into copybook mould now.
Certainly.
Pressure right on the German.
He must strike to stay with Thompson, or else he'll lose complete touch with this game.
Going for 6 in a row. The 21-year-old from Newcastle.
Thompson leading by 32 pins.
Looked like he might have been in a bit of trouble, but the power there, bringing in 6 strikes in succession.
Well, Thompson pleased with himself, and so he should be, because this really cleans the 10 pins up. Grabowski must strike now to stay in the game.
Really high quality match, this one. 4 strikes from Grabowski, 6 from Thompson.
Halfway to that perfect 300 game, and we've never had one on Australian television. There have been a few in the United States, but never here. And young Robert Thompson's halfway to that record.
Oh! For once, the flying pins let him down. Well, he's really become a favourite here over this weekend, Robert Thompson. Well, he tried to block out that miss he had in the opening match. 2, in fact, when he had a spare like this. Chance for Grabowski.
Grabowski strikes here. And he would have reduced the lead to 21. That's how quick it turns around, but a solid 10-pin robbing him of that 3 strikes in a row, and he's still 32 pins.
No problems.
Behind Thompson.
He turned his back on it. He knew it was on course.
And with that spare, and both bowlers sparing in the 7th frame, Robert Thompson 169 in the 6th. Akam Grabowski 137 in the 6th frame.
Just a little bit of powder on the thumb hole
to ensure the grip.
Fingertip grip that all the top bowlers employ.
He is just so confident. And that's a disastrous frame for him. This spare, Peter, is a difficult one to say the least. He needs to touch the number 3 pin to the right-hand side, slide it across the lane to take the 7 pin. A difficult spare indeed.
Oh, almost. Brave try, that one. And I think he needed it to stay in the game. Thompson looking to close it out.
Well, if Robert Thompson strikes out, he makes a possible 279, and the best that Grabowski can do now is 223. And it certainly seems that young Robert Thompson from Newcastle will advance to the next match. Grabowski giving himself a glimmer of hope, but the reality is that if Thompson makes this spare, he shuts him out, and he does.
Well, Grabowski, who averaged 209 in the tournament up until this match, finishing full of fight, but too late, unfortunately. It's the young Tiger from Newcastle.
Robert Thompson has a 36-pin lead, which is unbeatable, and Akam Grabowski will fill 4th place.
Nice way to leave Australia. He could finish up with one more strike. But he'll be thinking of what could have been if he hadn't met a man in such devastating form. Grabowski's last bowl of the Australian Ten Pin Cup World Series.
And that's a
Leaves two
fine
pins.
game. 221 game to Grabowski. Certainly not disgraced at all. But meeting Robert Thompson in this sort of form after he got a great break when Bradford gave him that match. A 249 game to win to Robert Thompson.
And Thompson fights on. Grabowski departs $3,000 for 4th place here at the Ed Fleming Lanes. Top qualifier, he finished 2nd after the match play. Patrick Eriksson from Sweden. He's 28 years of age, been bowling for 11 years. He's from Stockholm. 300 perfect games to his credit. Robert Thompson, who hasn't been out of action in this final 5-step ladder competition, begins our 3rd match. And that's much easier than it could have been. That split would have been difficult.
He got a nice break with the pin at the back, taking out the 9-pin, so taking it from a difficult spare to an easy single pin conversion.
Now, Eriksson, who has bowled in Australia before, South Sydney at the World Cup in 1984. And he too has a bit of a lucky break.
Sure he does. Thompson should convert the spare without a question. And doesn't. In fact, both these bowlers were very much the quiet, continual achievers in this tournament. And an easy spare, certainly, for a man of Patrick Eriksson's calibre. As you said, Peter, he was top qualifier after the 20 games of qualifying, averaging 216, and then dropped to the 2nd place after the match play and the qualifying were totaled, but still kept that pace. He was averaging 214, so he's been very consistent for the last couple of days in this event.
How do you feel, though, even though you've performed earlier on, when you come up against a man who is on a roll like Thompson?
It's always difficult. Robert's been on this pair of lanes now for 2 matches. He understands the lanes. He's scoring well. He's been lucky. Other bowlers have let him in. He really is confident and running hot.
Well, in all other sporting endeavours, the Swedes are rarely flustered. I suppose it's no different in 10-pin bowling.
Exactly, Peter. As I said, very much the quiet achiever, Patrick Eriksson. And why not with this style? Out, down the gutter, the ball coming into the pocket late, but a perfect count. So both bowlers opening with a spare and a strike. Thompson hoping to make it a double.
Yeah, one of the spectators saying he got out of jail. I think it was the 7 that fell nicely to leave him with the 3, 6, 10 spare.
Certainly not an easy spare by any means, but made it a lot easier without that 7-pin. Eriksson now has the chance to make 2 strikes in a row and take us a quiet lead here.
Just a touch high, leaving 6 and 3.
I don't think he got out of that ball all well. He looked at his thumb and perhaps hanging up in the thumb hole. But an easy spare for Thompson.
Eriksson throws the ball well out in the air.
And plays the gutter shot down that outside line, along the gutter for a time, and coming back. And an easy spare this time. Both bowlers with spares in the 3rd frame, and totals. The game is all tied up with 40 apiece in the 3rd and working on their 4th frames.
Right into the pockets.
Patrick Erickson now needs a strike to stay square with Thompson. Interesting match, Peter, whereas in particularly the first game between Thompson and Bradford, at this stage, after 4 frames, both bowlers had the lead and lost it. This game is all tied up.
You can feel the tension building here too, because of the tightness in the match. Quieter than it has been.
Thompson working on a double here.
And gets it. Terrific sportsmanship we've seen here all weekend. The Swede coming to pick up his bowling ball, clapping that strike from Thompson. Very quick to acknowledge good bowling from the opponents, all the bowlers here. Playing off for a place in the final, these two. Oh, there. Going blow for blow.
They don't want to break that tie. And a perfect shot by Erickson. All 10 in the pit. Both bowlers now have 2 strikes in the 4th and 5th frame, 60 pins each in the 3rd. Thompson for 3 strikes in a row.
That 4-pin did a real flip, but didn't take the 7.
Terribly unlucky. It must have been so close to touching it. And with the way it was spinning around, there was no way the 7-pin would have stood. We'll see here. Incredible how it didn't touch it.
It was the 2 jumping up and down, but leading 1. So the strike here for Erickson, and he
To
takes
lead
the
by
lead.
11. And he does.
5 times the Swedish Masters champion.
Easy spare for Thompson. With that spare, Robert Thompson 109 in the 5th frame. And sitting on a 218 pace, Patrick Erickson 90 in the 4th, but has 2 strikes working in the 5th and 6th frames. And is on a 230 game pace. And it's crossed and hit a little high to the flush of the headpin on the left-hand side. An easy spare, but certainly lets Thompson into this match.
You see it taking the headpin straight out, ideally for the right-hander. It needs to be on the right-hand side of it, that pocket between it and the 3, exactly where Thompson delivered that bowl.
And Thompson took his chance, and opportunity knocked for him, and he didn't miss the mark. He needed the strike to stay with him. Erickson leads by 8. And now more.
Now behind.
Now behind. And there the gate has been opened again for Robert Thompson. Robert Thompson now leads by 4. If he strikes here, in the 8th frame, he will double to take his lead to 14. How this match has turned around in 2 frames. Looks great.
Well, I wonder if in this match 1 opportunity will be enough for him to close it out.
Well, he's had a couple of gifts over the last couple of matches, Peter. Surely you wouldn't think any more would come his way, but that was remarkable for Erickson to miss that fairly easy spare for a man of his talent. And he nearly leaves it again. An 8 count in the 8th.
3-6 spare for Erickson in this 8th frame.
And he makes no mistake with that. Robert Thompson has 2 strikes in the 7th and 8th frames. Strike in the 9th to lead Patrick Eriksson of Sweden by 24 pins, and certainly look good to go into the grand final. That looks terrific.
But for the 10 pin, well, now Eriksson, a strike here. Keeps himself alive.
Well, it certainly did everything but take the 10 out. It was almost the perfect shot, not tapping the 10 off. Patrick Eriksson must strike here to stay with Robert Thompson.
Sliding high, and well, the 10 went to make the spare easy enough for him, but not what he was after.
He struggled on this television pair. The TV lights have dried out his line a little bit, so his ball's hooking more. Therefore, he's not.
Well, I guess you could say Thompson's had more time to adjust. He's been out there ever since the telecast started.
I was about to say he wasn't quite getting the ball reaction that he had earlier today. And an easy spare for Patrick Eriksson in the 9th. Patrick Eriksson must strike to stay in this match. 188 is Robert Thompson in the 9th frame, spare in that frame, and 174 Patrick Eriksson in the 9th, both bowlers into their 10th frame. And if Robert Thompson does anything here in the way of a spare or a strike, he will virtually shut out Patrick Eriksson.
Big gorillas!
Well, he's shown great composure. Just got to hold it together from here on in. Eriksson knows he needs strikes.
Eriksson can make 214, but he must put 3 strikes in a row. This is first.
Well, looks like Thompson's got through to the grand final.
He must spare.
He can pick this up. Mission accomplished.
Robert Thompson has 207 plus the count on this ball, a possible 217, and 203 is all Patrick Eriksson can make, even with the strike on his bonus ball.
Oh, the cream on the cake to take him through to the grand final, a strike. And he must be really pumped up for it, on a roll. 3rd place for Patrick Eriksson. He finishes with a strike. Losing by 14 pins. Patrick Eriksson finishing 3rd here at the Ed Fleming Lanes. $5,000 for the Swede, the young Australian now into the final against the German who has been rampant so far, Peter Knopp. Will the fairy tale continue to its ultimate climax? Peter Knopp from Frankfurt in Germany, 32 years of age. The top player after the match play competition. He's been bowling for 13 years, and before coming to Australia he bowled 6 perfect 300 games. He made that 7 with an astounding performance earlier on today to get himself a marine power speedboat. But the ultimate prize for him, $25,000 if he can beat Robert Thompson in this first game of a possible 2 final. Should Thompson beat him, then Knopp can challenge for the right to win this Australian 10 Pin Cup. Knopp down on one knee. His opening bowl is only a 9 count. So both players have spares to complete the first frame. Thompson does it.
Peter Knopp from Germany has been a sensation here this week, Peter. He's really shown a lot of Australian bowlers that difficult conditions can be overcome with power and accuracy.
So even Stevens in the early going. Knopp has the chance of taking 2 bites at the cherry because of the fact he got into the step ladder phase as the top qualifier. I'm sure he'd want to finish it in 1 and stop this man's amazing performance up the rankings. Looking for a strike. Second frame, and he's given himself a tough split.
Very difficult spare here for Thompson.
Very studious looking Knopp. Student of the art of 10-pin bowling.
See what Thompson can do with his difficult spare. Only 1.
Should he have cut his losses there and just tried to pick up 2, or?
At this early stage, it's difficult. It's up to the player, really. Knopp has proved his dominance here this week, so I think Thompson really had to go for everything he could. Knopp's a part-time player on the Professional Bowlers Tour in the US. In fact, when he leaves here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, he goes straight to Tucson to pick up the US Professional Tour.
Baby in the big crowd here at Ed Fleming Lanes. Not happy with the action, but the players totally focused, not even hearing it, and a strike for Robert Thompson.
After what appeared to be just a loss of concentration for a short time in that second frame, Thompson's come back with a great strike and an easy spare here for Knopp. Both bowlers in the third frame marking a strike to Thompson and a spare to Knopp. And Knopp leads by 17. But Thompson has the opportunity to make a double to reduce that lead. And he now seems to be having some trouble on that odd lane. The ball reacting very quickly, diving into the head pin. 2 bad leaves for him.
Oh, he's going for the jugular now, Peter Knopp. 12 pins better average coming into this final than this player, and it's starting to show. A brave try for that spare on the 10 pin from Thompson. Luck perhaps has run out for him. Still a long way to go into the 5th frame.
Knopp leads by 29. A strike here and he'll take that lead to 39. Looks great. Thompson here needing a strike to stay with him, and gets it. Still hanging in there. An intimidating bowler, Peter Knopp. He's powerful, and certainly he throws himself around on the approach. A spectacular player to watch, and the Australian crowd here has been absolutely in awe of his ball reaction and the scores he's been achieving this week at Ed Fleming Lanes.
Lithe, athletic, and as you say, intimidating. He narrows those eyes as he looks down the lane and almost dares the pins to stay up. Thompson looking to answer the challenge. Consecutive, no, the 10 pin. Really looked good.
And although 10-pin bowling's a funny game, and as we've already seen in a couple of our matches earlier, Peter, particularly Thompson's first match against Bradford, how things turn around within 10 frames. But 49 pin lead to Peter Knop at this stage, and Robert Thompson needs to convert this spare and then get working on some strikes and hope that somewhere Knop lets him into the match.
Feature of the bowlers that have made it through to these finals, the fact they wear eyeglasses. Is this a trend that you've noticed, Steve?
Thanks, Peter. Yes, actually, it's interesting, isn't it? The bowling fraternity really needs to, particularly at this level, to make sure they're focused, not only mentally, but from a vision perspective as well.
What are they looking at here? They've got a number of markings on the lane.
Sure, Peter Knop would be looking at the arrow after he gets a strike.
4 in a row from Knop.
And he's looking and hit somewhere around the first 4 or 5 boards on the lane. There's an arrow down the lane on the 5th board, and just beyond that is where Knop would be looking.
Just a high delivery from Thompson. It's slipping away from him.
The ball reaction by both bowlers is fairly obvious. Indeed, Thompson plays very much straight up and down the lane, the ball hooking at the end marginally or slightly. Peter Knop throws the ball across the lane from out, and the ball comes back very quickly in the last 15 feet. That's the sort of powerful shot you need to win on the United States Tour. And even with that spare, the best Robert Thompson can do in our 7th frame moving on is a 198 game. And Peter Knop is running at a 240 game pace at this time. And he loves that. He is one of the best bowlers we've seen in this country for many years. We've seen a number of great Americans: Dave Davis, Barry Asher, Steve Neff, Glenn Allison.
Well, I'm sure that Thompson's learning something from him, as are all the bowlers here at Muralbark. He's, well, set a standard that few will be able to match, of course, but you've got to set your sights high. Knop going for 6 strikes in a row. Gee, it's immense power.
And a 10.
Just leaves the 10. He might have overstretched a little bit there on that one. He gave it a heck of a lot.
Well, I have to say that that's one of the few things that's one of the only things this week that's cost not having a bigger average than the one that he already has, 219 for the entire tournament, are single pins after hitting the pocket.
Well, pressure off a little bit, and it's suiting Robert Thompson.
Sure, Knop leads by 61, and the best, as I said, Thompson can do is 198, and a good spare to Peter Knop.
11 years Thompson senior is Knop, and he's just trying to keep him up. As I said, sportsmanship here this weekend's been a feature. Well, the lucky breaks he was getting earlier on have deserted him, and perhaps he had his share.
It's been a spectacular performance to come from 5th through. I mean, young man, no television experience before. Everything was new to him here in this standard of a tournament. He's done remarkably well. And Knop keeps on getting the breaks.
Well, the power helping him there. The carry of the pins and the action. Just knocking down that 5 that was hanging about.
Fair to Thompson. Looking dejected, but he shouldn't. He should be very pleased with his performance. I'm not sure of how many sports people can play for 5 years and reach a caliber of this level. Thompson's achieved that. He's certainly a natural, if there is such a thing in sport, and a natural to this game. Knop now in his 10th frame. Best he can do is 249. Let's see what he gets here. And that's a nice place to leave it.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could pick that up for us, though? It would be a nice way to finish the tournament. A terrific spare.
For a 239 game. and Robert Thompson finishes with a 176 game.
Well, the crowd have been with him the whole way, and he's provided some fantastic entertainment, but this man's the winner. Ooh, he just goes through the middle. Well, the icing perhaps not on their cake as he would have liked, but he's looked the winner here really all weekend.
Yes, he has, Peter. A sensational performance. He's averaged 219 for the whole tournament, and he came along here with 5 other Germans. Brenton Barrett from Brunswick there, congratulating Peter Knopp, and a spectacular performance by the German.
$25,000 for Peter Knopp. His teammates, I think, might end up sharing in some of that, and a $15,000 boat. What a worthwhile visit to Australia it's been for the German. Peter, congratulations. You put on a tremendous display for us over the weekend. You must be wondering why you hadn't come to Australia before this.
Yeah, they hadn't had this international tournament before, and we got invited through Warren Stewart, one of the tournament committees, and I met him in Chicago, and he passed the flyer round of the World Cup, or the World Series tournament, and so we decided to come over to give him a shot, and it turned out very good for us Germans.
Did you know much about Australian bowling before that?
No, not really. I met Robert Sigman in Kent in Malaysia, where I bowled the tournament 2 years ago, and before that, just out of American Bowlers Journal, they have an international division in their newspaper, so I get some reading on that.
Well, you averaged 224 odd coming into this final 5. Is that just about as well as you can bowl?
I did better in some of the tournaments. I did a lot worse in other tournaments. So this is, when you give always 100%, then you get what you have to get. And so it turned out very good for me, and it's over my usual average. But like I said, I won tournaments with higher average, but I won tournaments with very low average as well. So it's kind the surrounding will give the scoring. So you have to take what it takes.
Well, coming into the final against Robert, who was on a roll, having played so well, did you think you could stop him?
Yeah, I thought about that, and I made 2 TV shows back home in the European cable network, and I averaged 245 in over 4 or 5 games on international TV. So I know I can get hot when I'm on TV, and the pressure was definitely on him because I was the tournament leader, and I get a second chance, so I can freewheeling. And he still have to beat me twice to get the title, so this helped a lot.
Are we going to see you back next year to defend the title?
Yeah, sure. This is a part of the tournament, so if you're defending titles, you get an invitation for the next year, and I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, we're looking forward to seeing you very much. Peter Knopp, congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Robert, that was something to remember. Even though you didn't win the final, the show you put on for us, winning those 3 games prior to it. Did you come into the step ladder feeling you had nothing to lose, so you just went for it?
Yeah, I certainly did, because I was starting to struggle a bit towards the end of match play, and the confidence was starting to go a bit down. But the lower numbers in the house were harder than the higher numbers, so I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose when I come back up to the higher numbers. And
you mean the lanes when you say that?
Yes, the higher numbers of the lanes, like the 3 and 4 end was really tough, and like the higher numbers from 19 through to 28 were very, very easy. And so it made me feel like I had a good chance to make it to the top.
What about that first game against Ian Bradford? He too had really hit his straps coming into the final 5. I think the winner changed about 4 times in the space of those 10 frames.
Yeah, it certainly did. I made some really silly errors in the first game, but I was just thankful that Ian missed that 7-pin in the 10th frame to give me a chance to win, and I took full advantage. Did
you feel, even though Peter had played so well, that the way you were playing you could beat him in the final?
Well, I had a feeling that if he wasn't on his game at the time, that I had a chance, but he just bowled so well all weekend, and he was just going to be very, very hard to beat.
Well, you've only been bowling for 5 years. What have you learnt here at the Australian Ten Pin Cup?
I've learnt so much. The overseas bowlers are just so much more advanced than the Australians, and I suppose the more time we get to play against them, the better it will be.
Okay, we look forward to seeing you perhaps go one better next year. Well played over the weekend.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd just like to say thanks to my coach back home, Peter Zambulis, for getting me to this point in my bowling career. Thank you.
Good on you. Well done, Robert Thompson.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Good on you. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the action from Mooroolbark. Next week, ABC Sport runs Australia on Saturday in Grandstand it's the Gold Coast Marathon, and then on Sunday, live around Australia from 10 o'clock, the 1992 Sun Herald City to Surf. Hope you can join us then. Peter G, ABC Grandstand.